Um, she also said that you got on top of her on the driver's seat and that you were hitting her in the face.
I never heard this allegation before, man.
Well, that's why you are being charged with this dating violence crime. Um, we got pictures. They did a good job of interviewing her. They did a good job of taking pictures. So shout out to them on that.
Well, we are about to watch a parole revocation hearing, and man, it's going to be tough because this new board, at least this combination of Miss Stapleton, the sheriff Steve Prater, and Miss Renatza, they don't take these things lightly. I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
So you're accused of violating condition number 4 of your parole conditions, and that states on October 1st, 2023, you committed the offenses of 1 count of flight from an officer and 1 count battery of a dating partner, 1 count of unauthorized use of a vehicle, and 1 count of driving under suspension. You were arrested by the Red River Parish Sheriff's Office. On May 9th, 2024, all charges were dismissed. So how do you plead to violating condition number 4?
I plead not guilty.
All right, and then we have condition number 10, and it reads, you have not made a payment towards supervision fees since your release from incarceration. You have a current arrearage of $693. How do you plead violating condition number 10?
Just a straight answer or explanation?
Well, you can give the explanation to Mrs. Stapleton. I just need you to give me a plea of guilty or not guilty.
Guilty.
Right? All right. Would you answer Mrs. Stapleton's questions, please, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I can't hear her.
You're on mute. She's trying to find that. There it
I'm
is.
sorry.
You
Yeah.
got it.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. So I do have I do have some questions. Okay, so you said that you didn't flee officers. Is that what you were saying? That was one of the charges?
No, ma'am.
No. So where would they get that idea?
I didn't even know they were behind me. I even pulled over on the shoulder of the road, and he never blew the horn or nothing like that. But and when on the arrest, he told me that he would maybe drop that to resisting instead of a flight. He told me that he was gonna write that up as a resisting, as a simple resisting arrest. But I did not flee purposely.
Okay, well, it says here in the police report that he activated his audible emergency signal along with a visual emergency signal, but the driver continued northbound on Springville Road. So that's what he has to say about it. So just so you know. Now, when they got there, there was a lady, Miss Tiffany Tingle. And said, make contact with Tiffany Tingle. Is that your wife, girlfriend, or what?
We were currently separated at the time.
But y'all were together. Because you
Yes,
made contact with her.
yes, ma'am. I was at my address and she came over there.
And she got into your car?
Yes, ma'am. We were together. It was It was some complication going on, and something else had happened to her prior when she came over there to where I was, and I didn't take her car without her knowledge because it was both of our car, but it was in my father-in-law's name, and she was trying to call me to come back, but I didn't even have a phone at the time, and so I didn't even know that she had called the police. So when I seen the police, but I didn't think that the police was after me. So when I seen them, no, I didn't stop, but I didn't exceed breaking the traffic violations of anything like that. And when I pulled over on the side of the road, they hesitated. They didn't say nothing to get out. So I never knew that they were after me in the first beginning, ma'am. And I hadn't done anything. So now she had an altercation with somebody else prior to her coming over there to see me. But I didn't really know, and they read the report of what she said. They said she didn't want to press charges or nothing like that. They said they seen some marks on. I mean, I didn't. It would be evident marks if I would have jumped on her and or battered her. I don't know.
Okay, well, she went to the emergency room. You do know that, right?
Went to the emergency room? No, ma'am. I didn't know she went to the emergency room.
Yeah. So after EMS checked, let's see, at this point, Carlos West stated that he needed medical treatment because,
Yes.
okay, and he was checked out once at the emergency room. Carlos West stated that Tiffany Tingle had jumped on him during the altercation. However, I could not locate any marks on Carlos West.
No, I never said that. I didn't say she jumped on me. I wouldn't have wanted to put her in jail like that. No way. I said that she jumped on me or nothing like that. No, man.
Okay. Okay, when we were still in the parking lot, let's see, a white truck. I observed marks on Tiffany Tingle's face under her right eye, above her right eye, and between her right eyes that appeared to be from some type of altercation. Tiffany Tingle stated that Carlos West beat her up and took the car. Tiffany Tingle was visibly upset because it appeared she'd been crying and breathing heavily. You put her out on the side of the road?
No, man.
But you didn't do nothing, huh?
No, ma'am. I didn't jump on her. It was an altercation that I was at on Washington Street. Prior to that, my address, I paroled to the address that we had together. Carroll Street. That's the address that I paroled to together. But I changed my address a few months later on. We started separated, and like she just came over there, but I didn't. I was unaware that she made, and nobody ever told me that these statements was made until now. Because even the arresting officer was saying, "Man, she don't want to press charges, or nothing like that," and she came up here to try to tell the people that she did want to. She said she didn't press charges, but she wanted to make sure there wasn't no charges pressed on her, and they kept her for another incident. This She's incarcerated at this moment right now. They kept her as an incident where she coming trying to make sure it wasn't no charge pressed on me. But I never was aware, ma'am, that she went to the emergency room. I never was aware of those statements that you just made. And I've been read, even Miss Victoria Bond here, she read the report. She didn't even, I have never heard these statements before, ma'am.
She also said that you got on top of her on the driver's seat and that you were hitting her in the face.
I never heard this allegation before, ma'am.
Well, that's why you are being charged with this dating violence crime. We got pictures. They did a good job of interviewing her. They did a good job of taking pictures. So shout out to them on that. And
do you know when was this assault supposed to happen? The same day?
yeah, let me see. I can tell you when the report was. Affidavit. Let's see. 10/1/23. Yeah. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, that's the day that that's and they showed me the picture. I mean, like
They wouldn't have showed you the pictures. They took the pictures. They made sure we have the pictures.
yes, I seen the picture from the parole officer. If I would have jumped on and got on top of and beat her like that, it would have been brutal evidence, ma'am, that I actually assaulted her like that, and she's sort of a charismatic person. She do
Mhm.
things like chopping vines and limb downs in the woods. She be doing like heavy type of work, and she had just got into an altercation with some type of female. What she would tell me when she came over there, it was early in the morning on a
Okay.
Sunday
Well,
morning.
I guess that's enough of that. I'm going to pass it along to my colleagues.
I don't have any questions. Mr. Prater, you have any questions?
Man, you were paroled. Looks like you were paroled in April, and less than 6 months later, you find yourself in this situation. Whose car was it?
Um, who name was it in? You mean it was both our car. We both paid on it together, Mr. Prater, but it wasn't in neither one of our names.
Well, did the police tell you why you got charged with unauthorized use?
They said that no, sir, they didn't. They just, they didn't. They said she called the police and they went there and they never told me that she knew I was in the car, sir, and I didn't jump on and take the car. I mean, I wouldn't have to, sir.
Okay. And one other question, and the reason I ask these simple questions is I understand about the domestic violence charge, but it says driving under suspension. Did you have a valid driver's license?
I think they come from a speeding ticket in the same exact car that I received in Bossier Parish. I think that's where they come from. My stuff was in the car, my wallet, my electron had a tablet electronic device. They pulled me out the car like my shirts and clothes was in the vehicle at the time, Mr. Prater. So, I didn't take the car unauthorized. And
Now, were you driving under suspension?
not that I know of, sir. I could tell you where they may have got that from, but I didn't know my license was suspended.
Were your license suspended?
I never had a driver license.
You ain't never had one.
No, sir.
Okay, I think if I was on parole, I wouldn't be driving without a driver's license.
Yes, sir.
I mean, part of what the state of Louisiana lets you get out on parole for is to see if you have learned to follow the rules.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Oh, yes, sir. Completely.
Okay. Were you following the rules?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prater. Mr. West, before we vote, is there anything you'd like to say to the board, the panel?
Yes, that the charges were rejected and dismissed, and hundreds of people I've seen in front of me, charges was dismissed. Their parole was not violated or technically violated. Prior to this incident, I was on parole and an incident happened. Sometimes false allegations do go through, and these are just allegations until they are proven in the court of law. And they went through and I had some charges and they got dismissed and the paperwork was done and I was placed right back on parole. Just because I was accused of these things don't mean that I did them, ma'am. And the charges were rejected. I say again, the charges were rejected from the court. They were dropped from the same court the same law that the Louisiana Board, Department of Corrections in Louisiana rejected the charges, ma'am. And I said I was not guilty and the charges were rejected. So
All right. Yes,
thank
sir.
you for your time.
Yes, sir. I think we are prepared to vote. Mrs. Stapleton will be voting first. You're on mute still.
Man,
Mrs. Stapleton's going to be voting.
Are you in arrears of your supervision fees?
I've been incarcerated, man.
Okay. That was another one of the conditions, $693 in arrears. So I was just gonna ask if you paid that.
How
But no.
how can I pay it, man?
Well, prior to that, were you
Oh.
paying supervision fees before you went into
Pri-
jail?
Prior to that, when I got out, me and my parole officer, Mr. McLaren, he was waiving my fees in order for me to he was working with me. He said told me don't worry about the fees, try to get on my feet. And no ma'am.
Okay, I'm prepared to vote. I'm gonna vote today based upon the preponderance of evidence, PC, of number 4 and number 10.
Mr. Prater,
I'm gonna vote to revoke just simply on the fact that he hadn't learned to follow the rules, driving without a driving license. If I'm on parole, that's crazy. Revoke.
Mr. West, Mr. West,
Ma'am.
you listening to us?
Yes, ma'am. I was talking to a staff member.
No, well, so yeah, you aren't listening to us. So you've got 2 votes to revoke your parole, and I concur with my colleagues based on the evidence in the record. I find you violated condition number 4 and number 10. So my vote today is going to be to revoke your parole. Today, sir, your parole's
I
being
can't.
That concludes our business, I believe. So we're going to sign off from there at 10:27 a.m. Thank you.
What they do is what? That was some bullshit right there. They revoked me when the charges were dismissed, man.
They revoked me when the charges were dismissed. That's what he said there at the end in the hot mic. And it's something that we see quite often where the charges are dismissed in these cases. And that's because the DA, the ADA, understands that they don't need to prosecute when someone is on parole, because a parole contract that is signed by everybody who goes into parole simply states that I shall not be involved in any criminal activity. That is very vague language, intentionally so that it is that easy to get revoked. The DA knows this. They're not going to waste their time on prosecuting. They just say, sure, we'll drop the charges. They're responsible, the jail, to report any arrest to the parole board, and the parole board then revokes. It's that simple. And, even to play it on the safe side, it seems the parole board just chose to revoke on the technicality that he didn't pay his dues. And I think they did that really in the sense of just to give him no legal outlet, one extra layer. But it's simply being involved in criminal activity. And we see that all the time. Actually, what we see all the time as well are attorneys that give their clients wrong advice and actually say, take a deal from the DA for a misdemeanor. Don't worry, you won't get revoked. We see that all the time. And that's, I think, criminal, that attorneys are giving false advice to their clients that they simply don't know the law, and yet they are taking a paycheck without understanding parole laws for the clients who they're representing. That's insane, and we see that all the time. We see it for years. This goes back to 2019 when we first started recording these parole hearings. When Louisiana first started recording them. So, something else. It's like at the end there, he's being rude by talking to the CO, and the CO for some reason is engaging with him. And, it was his passive aggressive way of being disrespectful to the parole board. And it was. But in comparison to the other states that we see, specifically Connecticut, it really is not a big deal. Like in Connecticut, they go off. They curse through the entire hearing. They call names. They do everything in the book, and the parole board just takes it. And in Louisiana, what's interesting is we've covered, I think, over 3,000 hearings, and maybe there have been two or three where the person up for parole or revocation came close to what a regular CT hearing can be like. And it's just an interesting thing about the just different cultures of different states. Louisiana, even the most hardened criminals, they still say yes, ma'am. They still kind of have that Southern politeness. It's quite interesting. But he, you know, I don't feel bad for him. Remember, his parole was revoked. He simply had to not get in trouble. Yet he gets into a car and drives without a license, which is getting involved in criminal activity. If he gets cuffed for that, he's backing time. And Prater's like, why were you driving with a suspended license? And he says, I never had a license. Oh, okay. And here's the initial crime. And thank you, Richard, as always. So, it's, you might say it's ironic. He's initially locked up in 2017 for being in a car chase. 2 people were arrested after leading Louisiana State Police on a chase into Webster Parish. Troopers attempted to stop a 2004 GMC Yukon for a traffic violation after 11:30 a.m. Thursday along Interstate 20. The driver, 31, and Cassie Jordan of Bazier. I always pronounce it wrong. I know I hear it over and over and I still can't pronounce it. Bazier. I know you'll hit me up in the comment section about that. Refused to stop and led troopers on a chase along the interstate in Webster Parish, Trooper First Class. I hear it said. Is that a rank? First Class? Jordan exited the interstate at Goodwill Road and continued east along US Highway 80 before returning onto Sherrill Road and stopping. Troopers arrested both Jordan and passenger 35 cars west. Well, he did eventually stop, so maybe he was tossing stuff. Jordan was arrested on charges of aggravated flight from an officer, DWI first offense, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, illegal possession of stolen things, distribution and possession of the devil's lettuce, distribution and possession of Schedule 2, which is always hilarious how marijuana is Schedule 1 and the other stuff is Schedule 2, and use and sale of drug paraphernalia. Carlos West was arrested on charges of possession of firearm with a convicted felon, illegal blah, 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 blah. They're both booked. And, man, face tattoo thing is just... So, not to mention, he gets onto the front seat and it's just, you just can't feel bad for him. Anyways, thank you for being here. And with that, I'll let you go.